Hey, yo. Welcome back to Life in Review. Of course, this is where I kind of talk about what's going on in my life, and we're doing this Homebuyer series. And I'm up to how did I find my home? One of the greatest things I ever could have done was get a realtor, y'all. So there are some people who negotiate, will go negotiate with someone who's selling their house Zolo, and it works out. I wasn't born with that patience. I have to know myself and know that I really need someone, I need a professional to figure this thing out for me or to lead me and guide me in the right way. And that was one of the best things I could have done. Of course, by this point, we talked about I was pre-approved, know my lender that I was going to go to, and just really trying to find everything. I'm just trying to find that thing, find the gem that I wanted that I would say, oh my God, this is it, right? I credit my realtor so much because she helped me not only level set my expectations, but also get everything I wanted, right? Um, I think sometimes you go into a home and you're like, this is going to be, this may be my forever home. So I wanted to have all these features. And this is my first home. So does it need to be comfortable? As I hopefully, go up in salary, could I afford something better, nicer? Yeah, sure. And so what I'm looking for is something that fits me right now, right? So I have to level set that part, right? And something I can kind of grow into too, right? And another thing was she made me write down everything I wanted. Write down everything you want. It doesn't matter. And at first I'm like, you sure? Because I do not want to be disappointed, right? I walk in something, I'm like, Zach, I can't have this. I can't have that. This is on my list. So I was nervous about lists, but I wrote the list and it was one of the best things I could have done because I did get a home that has everything I wanted. Another dilemma I had was a new build versus an old build. And let me tell you why. Of course, with a new build, you're thinking about it's gonna have that new home smell. I get to pick out all my little fixtures. Everything is gonna be all nice, nicey. It's gonna smell good. Like you just think that new sometime. No one would have walked in the house. This is amazing. And so I had all these things about new, but in the end, I ended up going with the established home. And one of the reasons was number one, typically new builds are in developing areas, and especially if they're reasonably priced. If they're expensive, right, like 500,000 or more, they're probably in a developed area, right? So you'd be fine. So a developing area has all the things with a developing area, right? You may see some dilapidated homes not too far. They're starting to build up restaurants around you. It may not be walkable, right? You may be seeing dirt and grass as they continue to build the other units in the plot that they've decided is going to be this community. And so you have to be okay with you're in a developing community. You have to kind of be okay with that, and your home is bringing the value to this particular area. So that was one thing I had to contend with. The second thing was I couldn't have locked in my interest rate until a substantial part of the home was built. If I had waited for the house to be built, I would have cried at that interest rate. Would have been a disaster because, as you know, interest rates I think are 8.5%. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's still very, very high, and it probably could go higher, right? Like I know our parents were paying 10, 15% interest rate, right? But with the prices of these homes and wages stagnant, that's really not, that's really not feasible. And so I think that, I think that God was with me and definitely helped to say, okay, you got to buy because this stuff is getting scary out here, money wise. Um, Another thing that I had to contend with the new build was as I get older, I realized that, things aren't as I thought they were when I was young. When you're young, you think something new is going to have the latest and the greatest technology, the greatest code. They're giving you the best that they can have because it's new. And as you get older, you realize that because of the society that we live in, which is very capitalistic, it really becomes about how can I give you less for more money? And I felt like that. I felt like that with this particular time, home where it was like it was a one car garage and um yeah, one car garage, and the square footage wasn't as great, and it was beautiful, right? But you can see finding ways, how can I cut these corners to still give you a kitchen, living room, this and that, but charge you a rate where we get much more money on our return. We get a return on our investment into this property, into this plot. And so that was major. Like, my established home that I did end up buying, has 900 square feet than the new build I was getting at. And so I realized that that was important. And also, my established home is in a developed area already. I can walk to the store. I can walk. There's two Publix in the area. There's Walgreens. There are food. There are restaurants. There are bars. And it's all walkable. And when it comes to your quality of life, things like that become really important. Another thing that kind of made me go existing was my existing home literally had everything I wanted. And I felt like this is a good investment, right? Like, it's a little bit big for me. However, this is a home I can grow into, right? Like, I can, have a family in, start my family in. It will be worth more. When I do, if I do decide to sell it, it will give me that much more than if I just got like a little single house shanty. And so I was looking at all of that, not just, oh, this is my home, but this is an investment that I'm making and I want that return too. And so that really, really got me here. And I credit my realtor again, because when I walked into established home, one thing I want to just caution you guys on is you have to be open-minded, because I couldn't see the vision. When I walked in, I was like, it smelled like cigarettes. There was like a hole somewhere. I was like, what's going on? This is crazy. Like, this is not how I want to live. Then I'm like, let's go back to that new build, right? Like, this is too much. But the character has so much character. And when I sat there and I looked at everything, I'm like, oh no, this is fixable. That's just plaster. That's cheap. This is just that. That's cheap too. Like, and I had a really motivated seller, and I got all these seller concessions. And I just really think that this home was meant for me. Like, everything kind of fell in place. I didn't really struggle, and that was, I think, the most amazing thing. It was just like, I got the home I wanted for the same amount of money it would have been for a new build. And it's bigger in the developed area. Like, there's not much more I could have wanted. And so I definitely encourage you to be open-minded. When you see something, you're like, it's not quite right. What's not quite right? Is the plumbing good? What do the bones look like? Oh my God, that was a thing. That was a thing. Even my loan officer, well, does it have good bones? And you start to hear that from people in the industry. And then you understand. I understood. I'm like, no, it had great bones. Like, everything else is replaceable, right? But I couldn't. You can't replace the area, and you can't replace. I couldn't replace the value, and I already had equity walking in. So that was my experience, narrowing it down, choosing between an established home and a new build. And I wouldn't have changed a thing. You guys let me know. How did you find your home? Did you get a new build? What was your experiences like? And of course, we'll talk next time. Of course, there's so much more to talk about. And so we'll come back with another episode. Take care.